Chapter 21. Two Indians and Two Whites, the Bridge Builders of History. The unsung heroes of a shared past. The history of Native Americans is often told through the lens of conflict and tragedy. Yet, woven into the fabric of this narrative are the lives of individuals who functioned as bridges between two vastly different worlds. These four figures, two Native Americans and two white Americans, dedicated their lives to the pursuit of justice, education, and the preservation of truth. Though their paths were different, their goal was the same: to ensure that the indigenous voice was never erased from the American story. Ely Samuel Parker, the Seneca General. Born in 1828 as a member of the Seneca tribe, Ely Samuel Parker was a man of two names and two lives. To his people, he was Donahogawa, the keeper of the western door. To the United States government, he was a brilliant civil engineer and a high-ranking military officer. Parker's life was defined by a series of historic firsts. Despite being barred from practicing law because he was not a U.S. citizen, he turned to engineering and formed a deep friendship with General Ulysses S. Grant. During the Civil War, Parker served as Grant's official secretary. It was Parker's hand that drafted the formal surrender documents for General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox. When Lee noted that he was glad to see one real American at the ceremony, Parker famously replied, "We are all Americans." Later, under President Grant, he became the first Native American to serve as the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, fighting systemic prejudice to protect his people's interests. Charles and Elaine Eastman, the doctor and the poet. Charles Eastman, or Owiesa, represented a new generation of Native leadership. He was the first Native American to become a certified physician, graduating from Boston University School of Medicine. His career was forged in fire. He was a government doctor at Pine Ridge during the horrific Wounded Knee Massacre, where he personally treated the wounded survivors. His wife, Elaine Goodale Eastman, was a brilliant white poet and educator who shared his devotion to indigenous welfare. Together, they became a literary powerhouse. Encouraged by Elaine, Charles wrote 11 books on Dakota culture and history, including the classic Indian Boyhood. His works were translated globally, making him one of the most prolific indigenous authors in history. As a founding member of the Society of American Indians, Charles spent his life lecturing across the nation, humanizing the indigenous experience for a public that had long viewed his people only as vanishing relics. Helen Hunt Jackson, the conscience of the nation. Helen Hunt Jackson was a successful poet from Massachusetts whose life was transformed by a single lecture. In 1879, after hearing Chief Standing Bear describe the plight of the Ponca tribe, she transitioned from a literary socialite to a fierce political activist. She spent years investigating government corruption and treaty violations, eventually publishing A Century of Dishonor in 1881. She sent a copy to every member of Congress, demanding radical reform. To reach the hearts of the broader public, Jackson penned the novel Ramona. Much like Uncle Tom's Cabin did for the abolitionist movement, Ramona used a romantic narrative to expose the systemic abuse of Native Americans in California. The book was a massive success, going through 300 editions. Even on her deathbed in 1885, her final act was to write to President Grover Cleveland, urging him to rectify the wrongs committed against the indigenous people. She died believing it was her destiny to be a voice for the voiceless. The immortal legacy of truth. Each of these four individuals faced immense personal and professional challenges. Parker battled racial exclusion in the law. Eastman struggled with the trauma of Wounded Knee. And Jackson fought a government that initially ignored her pleas. Yet, their combined legacy provided a foundation for the modern movement for indigenous rights. They proved that education and literature could be more powerful than the sword. By documenting their history, treating the sick, and challenging the laws of the land, they ensured that A Century of Dishonor would eventually give way to an era of self-determination. They were more than just historical figures. They were the essential architects of the bridge that connects the Native American past to a sovereign future.